Thank you very much for having me here today. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's not on.
Great, thank you. You had your sound check last night. First impressions of the venue. Most of these people won't have seen it before. What did you think?
It's pretty impressive. I mean, when I arrived yesterday, the crew was still working on the visual side of it, but it's really impressive already. There are 4 areas. I'm gonna have the chance to play the main stage, and everybody's gonna be surprised that we have something little. We are getting ready for today. I don't want to reveal what it's gonna be. But that's one of the reasons I had to come yesterday and practice a little bit. So please come over tonight and let's hope for the best.
And I mean, you know, you have obviously quite an extensive live setup. Is sound checking something you try to do before every gig?
I try as much as possible, but sometimes it's not possible to do it because when I do festivals, I arrive in the country when the event is already running. So I just have to show up, set up and play, and it's quite difficult because I try not to fiddle around too much with my gear when the previous artist is playing, so I give myself maybe 10 minutes before the start of my set, and many things can go wrong, but yeah, it's a surprise. Sometimes a defect can be an effect. That's what we say in Bulgaria.
From the very few times I've DJ'd, I know that every time I'd go there, something would go wrong. You couldn't imagine it, but there'd be something, you know, just wouldn't be working. I imagine in your case, that must happen a stressful amount of times.
Yeah, but many things can go wrong, and it happens maybe in 3 gigs, one time everything is perfect. But we do dance music, I guess. If you have a kick drum, a bit of a bass line, and maybe another percussive element like a hi-hat once in a while, that's enough. It's enough to keep me going, and I guess it's the same for the people who come to dance.
Yeah, because kind of imperfection is actually a part of your act. Like, you like that live, raw, random, like spontaneous feel.
Yeah, I get inspired by the situation. So if something goes wrong, when something goes wrong, I try to use it as an advantage. I remember a couple of years ago seeing Jeff Mills playing, and he's quite crazy using a couple of decks and a drum machine. So at some point, one of his mixes was going wrong. Both beats were not completely glued together. So he, instead of fixing the mix, he left the beats going even wrong further and further, and that's how somehow he created a new beat out of it. So I quite love that.
Do you sometimes make mistakes on purpose, like do things like that?
No, never in purpose. But sometimes I can do something extreme which would look like a mistake, and like completely stopping the music, which I shouldn't supposed to do in a club, in a dance music environment. But contrast is fun.
I mean, how improvised is it? I mean, I guess obviously you play live a lot. Do you go in with an idea of the start is sorted? How does it work in that respect?
I used to be a DJ before I become a live act, and most of my life I've been into dance music. So my inspiration comes from people who play records, not that much from bands. Yeah, I think as a DJ, I guess most of the experienced DJ out there know that it's good to have a couple of tunes ahead in your mind. I guess that's what I do with my live set. I don't have any sort of pre-arranged track list, but I have in mind a couple of potential combinations I can do if I don't have any ideas. And most of the times I just try to improvise. I try to look at the crowd, and I give them what they want when I feel it's the time, and then I like to stress them once in a while and surprise them.
So where does this...
myself too.
Yeah, I mean, you famously put on a real show. I mean, you have such an arsenal of amazing tracks at your disposal. You could have just created a more simple live set, just you and a computer, like, you know, many brilliant artists do. Like, why do the bigger thing? Why complicate things for yourself in this way?
It's a good question. Actually, what I try to do is something very simple. when I moved from DJing to playing my music live, okay, the regular way of doing is having your tracks on stems and somehow mixing your parts live and doing something like a concert. But for me, it was very difficult to remember my own compositions. I'm not a real musician. I'm an engineer in the studio, and I used to be a DJ. And for me, it was difficult to count bars and to try to remember what I have to do in certain compositions. So I thought I have to simplify it. So I don't think during the performance, I just perform. So the way I do it is more like DJing with loops and then playing live on top of that. So as much as my system looks complicated, actually it's very simple. It's just dropping randomly some pre-recorded loops I have and then just playing keys and drums on top. And it's very spontaneous. I don't think about it. So it's quite simple.
In terms of the kind of showman aspect, is that something that you've got better at over the years? Is it something you've kind of cultivated?
Yeah, I found that it's very important to translate to the people what you do, because in the beginning when I was performing my music live, after the show I used to get reactions like, "Wow, that was an amazing DJ set," and I mean that's still a compliment, but for me it was very important to tell the people this is my own music, and a lot of the parts, a lot of the melodies and rhythms I do them right here in front of you. So a couple of years ago, I was playing before my friend Mark Romboy, Systematic Records, and he was using this computer DJ setup, and he had this little controller for Traktor, for the software Traktor. So this controller, it was connected to some sort of delay effect, some effect. And Mark is a tall guy. So he was, standing up. He picked up this controller, and he was just modulating the sound. And people went crazy because, I mean, he was animating the crowd somehow, but at the same time he was actually processing the sound. And I was a direct translation of what he was doing. And I thought, yes, I can do that. I've always been very shy to be on stage and trying to pose and trying to move my hands for no reason. But after I saw Mark doing it, still interacting with the people, but while doing something, I thought, yes, I love it. I can do that. And since then, I try to pick up some machines I have, show what I do. Sometimes I bring the machines to the crowd, and I let the people actually do sound, touch my machines, and maybe 40% of the times it works. And it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm interested because you have described yourself as a shy guy in real life. So, I mean, what is the kind of physical transformation when you come on stage? How do you feel? Does it feel like a different person?
I think I become a different person. Also, I kind of overcome my problem talking to the people. I'm here already talking for a couple of minutes, and my voice is still here. Yes, I love to dance since I was a very little kid, so the moment I hear music I like, I just forget about anything that stops me to have a good time. I love to make my music, and when I'm in the venue, in the club, in front of the crowd, when I look at the people, I look at them as my friends. It's just like-minded people. We are in this basement or a venue, and we just jam together. That's how I see it. So when I'm in such a situation, I don't feel I'm not shy anymore.
Can you remember your first live set?
Yes, I will never forget it. I live in Bulgaria, in Sofia. So in 2002, there was this event. It's called Electronic Music Festival. And the organizers, they wanted to have me and my DJ crew. But they said, we are interested in local live acts only. We don't want to have DJs. So me and my friends, we went there. We brought two computers, without old school computers with big, deep screens, if you remember. One of the computers was running a very early version of Ableton Live, probably the first version. That was the year 2002. The other computer was running early version of Native Instruments Reactor, which I intended to use as a FX processor for a hardware synth for a keyboard I brought. And the plan was amazing. We play Ableton Live from one computer, and we have this East German analog synthesizer running through Reactor from the other computer. But in reality, nothing worked. So we had a couple of thousand people waiting for us. There was no sound out of Ableton coming, and I had this pre-recorded mix with my music, which I played from a second computer from a software media player called Winamp. Maybe some of you remember. And yeah, I realized it's a live situation. The show must go on. So I started to pretend I'm playing live with the synthesizer I had. But it seems maybe I have a talent being on stage. So it seems I've been very convincing doing what I do. And something I have to mention, at that time we used to have this TV show called Techno. It was broadcasted every Saturday prime time on the national television. So when I was pretending playing with the synthesizer, I saw a camera, I saw the video crew from Techno. They come towards me and they start to film what I'm doing. So I thought, right, I have to be even more convincing. They came really close behind me. So I thought I'm going to open this Reactor software. It's a really obscure modular software synthesizer. I thought I'm going to open it on the screen, and it looks very complicated. They're not going to know what I'm doing. So I started pretending I'm modulating the patch in the software. They filmed everything, and after 2 minutes I realized, wow, this mouse is not even connected to that computer. So thank you. So this one was on the television, but of course they cut up the video. It looked amazing, and the conclusion was it's not scary to be on stage. As I say, you have like-minded people in front of you, and also what I learned for myself, you know, when you start from a very early point, you cannot really go lower. So it gave me such a big confidence to go on. That was my first live set.
The only way is up. I'm curious about Sofia and Bulgaria. I mean, what was it like growing up there?
Bulgaria used to be a communist country till 1989, and there was not so much information coming from the West till that time. Till 1989, we used to have the same few types of food in the shops. We used to dress the same way. We used to have grapefruits only around the New Year's time, and so on and so on. We used to be hungry for a Western culture. And when the system changed and we become a democratic country, the borders opened. Yeah, we were hungry for anything that comes from the West, and one of those things was the dance music. It was techno and house. So in the very early 90s, for me, first of all, it was the radio shows, and it was those pirate cassette compilations you can find on the streets. There was no big market for records. It was too expensive for us. We were in the economical crisis at that time. But on the street, you can find those tapes with a variety of electronic music. You could listen it on the radio, and then towards 1993, 94, we started to have these big raves. The promoters used to book totally unknown but very good DJs from Europe, and you can easily have 5, 6, 10,000 people in the room. And the people haven't got any information. They didn't know what is dub techno, they didn't know what is ambient or jungle drum bass. They would just go there completely open to discover something new, new music, new fashion. And that was a quite amazing start. It was very inspiring for me to be part of it, just as a listener.
And did you have a crew of friends who were into the same thing as you? Was it an individual pursuit?
I had music friends in the 90s, but for them it was something temporary. So as much as this music, as much as this movement came very strong in the 90s, it left as fast as it came, because it was not a long way of building tradition. We haven't got tradition in electronic music. So I think in the early 2000s, everything went down. And then it was when I met my music friends, late 90s, but also early 2000s. And in the year 2000, me and 3 of my friends, we made a DJ crew together. And that's how we started to, exploring, learning how to play in venues, learning how to make music in a very limited situation, just with a very slow computer and small media speakers and so on. It was a slow start.
There's a bit of an Eastern European boom at the moment. Cities like Tbilisi and Kiev doing well. I mean, what's stopping Sofia from becoming one of those cities?
We have a great potential because the law is very liberal. I'm not extremely familiar with the type of licenses over there, but as long as I know, as long as I've played to a lot of clubs in Bulgaria, you can have the club open for, as long as you want, 24, 48 hours. We are pretty easy with the drinking restriction. There are no restrictions for alcohol. So we have the options. Why the electronic music scene is not that big, I don't have the answer, but it was big and it will be big again, for sure.
You still live there, you've always lived there throughout your career. Was a part of that to try and build something there?
At some point, yes. In the period of 2000s, me and my friends, our DJ crew is called Porno BPM for some strange reason. We played, the thing is, I was coming from a techno background, moved to house. One of our friends, his artist name is Zenk, he was into breakbeats. My very good friend, Konstantin Petrov, K, he showed me how to make music in the early 90s, in the late 90s, and he is into rather deep house sound, always on the deeper side. And another guy, his name is Sub. He was more he was playing house music, but really, really strong and dark. Sorry, can you repeat the question again, because I got lost?
The question was staying in Sofia and living in Sofia.
Yes, so we started to throw parties together, and we had little success at some point. We were trying to invite some guests as well, but the music which we were pushing, it was not fitting the area musically, so it didn't work for us. So at the time when we were growing older, my friends, they got real jobs, and I was too addicted to music, so I thought I need to push this further. But my decision was to focus more on the international scene and reduce my time that I spent for events in Bulgaria. So for the moment, we stopped doing anything. But at the moment, I have power. So I would love to try to contribute again. I think the time is coming. But so far we haven't done anything in the past maybe 10 years.
Does it need a kind of like a great club that will attract?
We have, as I said, we have the potential. The law is pretty liberal. We have good venues with good sound systems. At the moment, what I see in Sofia, that's the capital, there are a lot of small crews which are actually doing very adventurous bookings. Sometimes they lose money, but they are enthusiastic. They try to push boundaries, and my problem at the moment is I don't have that much time. Luckily I'm busy with my gigs. I have so many projects in mind. I'm actually always catching up with deadlines, always late. So the only reason I still haven't contributed much to the scene is that I'm not available. But I'm trying to make time. In the past 2 years, I take couple of months break so I can focus in studio, so I can focus in meeting people in my own hometown. So it's coming. It's just slower than what I thought.
You do host kind of like events every now and then, and you play them anonymously and stuff.
Yes. What I do in Bulgaria is once a year I do a big event. I play for my good friends called Metropolis. That's probably the biggest and the best promoter for techno music in Sofia, in Bulgaria. And then every weekend, every month I have a free weekend. It's very intense what I do, so in order to survive, I try to have some time at home. So let's say every month I have a free weekend. Probably every second month I go to a small venue in Sofia, and me and my friends, still the same DJ crew, we do kind of unannounced events. We still mention it somehow on the web, so the people are coming. So I'm still kind of participating. However, I don't feel like I'm helping the scene enough, and I hope I will find time for this in the future.
I'm curious about this period in your life when you're kind of totally obsessed with this music, but not yet professional. I mean, what did your life look like around that time? Like, how much of your day were you dedicating to music, and in what way?
Yeah, in the beginning, for me, this music was a religion. I didn't know. Talking about the 90s, I didn't had much information. I didn't know how the artists look like. I didn't know how they would perform their music. I didn't even know how a real DJ set looked like. And all that mystery gained my curiosity, so I was really obsessed with it. Yeah, when I was in school in the 90s, I haven't got the budget to buy any equipment, so I would basically try to modify the sound or make the sound with anything I can find at home. For example, I had this turntable, and I was trying to scratch, but when I listened to the hip-hop mixes, I realized that when the hip-hop DJs, when they scratch, they cut the sound with something. I didn't know there's supposed to be a mixer in the chain. And I was wondering how they are able to cut the sound. So what I did is I cut the cable going to the speaker, and I was touching both ends of the cable, so that's how I was, making the sound going through, and so on and so on. I met also in the early to mid 90s. I met these guys. They wanted to make hip hop music, and they had gear. And by gear, I mean they had a dual cassette recorder. So they would give me some tapes, with some tapes with hip hop music, and I would find a clean drum loops, and I would extend the drum loops by playing the clean drum loop from one cassette, recording on a second, then rewinding back the first cassette on the place where the drum loop starts, playing it back again, recording, and that's how I would, extend the loop. And then I would scratch with my homemade crossfader by touching the cable, and so on. So how much time it would take, I don't know. I would use any moment to do this.
What did your parents think of all this?
Well, the music I was listening to, they would say, yeah, it sounds like horses running around. And our neighbor from the same floor, she was a very friendly woman, a friend of our family. But I remember one time she came and she said, you know what? There is something wrong with your washing machine.
I read that your studio's in your mum's house. Is that still the case?
I just moved it out, literally 5-6 days ago.
So was that in the house that you were born in, like that you grew up in?
Not born in.
Right.
Me and my family, we moved in. It's a flat. We moved in that flat in 1984, and my studio was in my childhood room since I've been living there since '94. So I was able to start building up some sort of studio maybe in the mid 2000s, late 2000s. Before it was just torturing neighbors with just a pair of speakers and
so that's nice. You lived elsewhere, but you'd be able to come home, see your mum.
No, I always lived there.
Okay.
Now we did a swap. So my mom lives in a place very nearby, maybe 5 minutes walk. So at the moment I'm still there with my wife, For years we say it's a temporary solution, but
let's talk about your production. You said that tracks and ideas for tracks come to you in everyday life. When you're walking around, I guess when you're performing on stage. I mean, do you have a process for remembering these ideas?
In the very, very beginning, I used to somehow visualize the tracks, because for a very big period of time, I haven't got gear, I haven't got a chance to produce. So when I started to record, my first recordings were since probably 1998. At that time, I haven't got any gear, so I was visiting my friends who had a computer. Also, I used to go to my father's office. He used to have a computer, and I would just use my 1 hour or 2 hours to make some loops and record them straight to tape. But I was not able to do this every day, so I would plan, I would imagine stuff, and then I would go and just quickly record something. Actually, like a lot of people used to do in the 90s when it was expensive to rent a studio, so you just go to the studio for 2 hours and you do your best shot. So that was in the beginning, then I had my first computer in the year 2000, I think, and I was using this, it's a modular software, it's called Buzz, like B-U-Z-Z, and the way you make music with it, you don't play the music, you type codes in a hexadecimal system, that means numbers and letters, and then you get some sound out of it. So it was a very boring process, it was just programming sound. And for a very long period of time, my music was very programmed with a high detail in it, but it also was very square. You count to 4 and something happens, then you count to 8 and something happens again, because I was not playing the music, I was writing it. And actually, since I started to play live, that was a big eye-opener, because when I'm on stage, I don't count. I'm just dancing, and at some point I feel, okay, now it's time to remove the kick drum, okay, now it's time to play something I have in my mind. And it was never in such a square structure, it was more natural. And since I started doing it on stage, I thought, why I don't apply this in my studio? So now my approach is less mathematical, and it's more physical, more natural.
But you said the actual process in the studio is quite cold, like you go in there.
It used to be, exactly, it used to be.
Right.
It used to be, I think the time when I said that, I still used that platform when I was programming the music. But now, since maybe the past 2-3 years, it changed big time. So now it's more of playing music.
And how often will you be in the studio?
It used to be every day, because it's like almost every day when I'm not in the road, because obviously it was in the same building. But from now on, let's see. I guess I'm always gonna be there as much as I can, because it's my way to relax as well. We have this fights with my wife when I come back from the weekend. I'm so tired, and always she says, she's excited to see me. I am excited to see her as well, but I am consumed. I don't have energy to do anything. I don't have energy to meet people as much as I love them. And I tell her, I'm really sorry, but I need my time off. I just need to be alone. And then I switch on my machines. So it's not only the job. It's not only I have a release schedule. I really love doing it, and it's my way of relaxing. And it doesn't mean that I have to have. That doesn't have to be productive all the time. Sometimes I just jam, and I don't have to record it. It's my way of healing from being awake for 72 hours and so on.
How else do you look after yourself on the road? How else do you look after yourself when you're on the road?
I have to take care of myself better. I don't have this healthy lifestyle. I am. I think I'm in a strange situation, because I don't take any substances to help me to keep going. But at the same time, I don't take a good care of what I eat. I still drink a bit, so I have this. I don't have anything that can help me out to handle this this life better. So the natural way is to start doing sports and eating healthier. but it's, you know, we are not perfect.
You said yourself you're a fan and a dancer first and foremost. I mean, has being a producer and getting to know all this different gear made you appreciate the music of some of your favourite artists even more? I'm thinking, for example, I know you're a huge Aphex Twin fan, someone who's, you know, is famous for how much gear and he has. Yeah, does it make you like their music even more?
Sorry, you say if I'm inspired by the machines or...
Well, yeah, just if getting to know, if understanding the machines better and knowing what they're capable of makes you appreciate the music of certain people even more.
Yeah, for me, first of all, it was understanding the sound design, and I'm not a classically trained musician, so my school of making music was not understanding the classic composers or understanding the music theory. For me, it was understanding how to make music like Larry Heard, like Kevin Saunderson, like Derek May. So in the very beginning, I was trying to copy them, and first of all, not by using gear, just using software, but trying to understand the basics of sound design. And I read a really interesting interview with a great producer called Kirk DeGiorgio. He was saying the same thing. He said he was trying to copy his favorite records, but obviously he was getting there, but he was not able to reproduce the sound in the same way. So he was coming up with something original by trying to copy his favorite recordings. I guess that's what happened with me, you know, trying to understand the process of making sounds. I stumbled across something else, and then being able to buy gear, it just expanded more options, and I started to build my modular synthesizer system maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and as much as I found this platform is not very practical for on stage and sometimes in the studio, it makes you very slow. But it was a very big eye-opener how to actually, what is the path of the sound, what is the path of the modulations. So yeah, learning how my favorite artists were doing it is inspiring, it's fun, and that's my school, not studying composition, but studying how my heroes made this music.
How many pieces of gear do you own?
It's I don't know. It's nothing too crazy. I know people like Matthew Johnson, for example. He has a crazy studio. I don't know. I have a pretty big modular synthesizer system. I've always been focused on buying new gear. I'm not that much fan of the classic gear. I mean, as long as I have the Roland TR-909, it's my favorite drum machine. I have the EMU SP1200. That's a drum focused sampler which does something magical with the sound. But generally, I'm really interested in new developments because I'm not that young. But I started as a producer with my computer, so I'm rather more open to new technology than to the classics. So I rather buy new stuff.
Would you say you're addicted to buying new technology?
Yeah, it's crazy. I managed to cure myself from the modular addiction.
I've heard that's serious.
Yes, but now I am back to buying pre-configured synthesizers because what I found is when you buy a pre-configured unit, if it's done very smartly, it makes you very fast by transferring your idea from your head to the recording. And I really need help. I'm online looking for new machines all the time, and when I find something, especially if it's not cheap, I talk to Konstantin, my studio partner now, and I talk to my wife, expecting that she would say, you know, don't buy it. But she says, are you happy? Does it make you happy? And I'm like, yeah, buy it then. I'm like, no, that's not the answer I'm looking for.
How often will a new piece of gear enter your live setup on the road?
I have, as I said, for me it's very important to have a very simple system on stage. I came up with my with the philosophy how I play my music maybe 9 years ago. So I have my computer, which is the brain of everything. I have a MIDI keyboard, I have a drum machine, and I have those two devices called Launchpad by Innovation. And I use this system since 9 years ago. So this is the core. And then I want to have a system which is similar to having a mixer and 2 decks, because once you play with this system for many years, you develop some sort of muscle memory. You don't think of the performance anymore. You just go for it. But still, I want to go out of my comfort zone. So every month or every 2 months, there is a piece of. Normally, there is a synthesizer which I change. Every 2 months, I bring something new. So I have the core, but there is a unit which I replace every 2 months.
You mentioned your wife there, Rachel Rowe. She's
Yes.
a singer-songwriter from Bulgaria.
That's correct. Yes.
Does having someone with, I mean, is she professionally trained?
She is. Yes.
Is having someone with that kind of ear and that kind of expertise helpful to your own music making?
Yes, it's very helpful, because what I found for myself and a lot of friends of mine who are not classically trained, we tend to, when we make a melody, we tend to stick to very simple chord progressions and very obvious chord progressions, because we don't know the rules. We make something basic and it sounds right, and we are afraid to go out of it because we put such a big effort and finally we get something that sounds right. And when you have someone who is classically trained on your side, this person can tell you, yeah, but maybe you can try something else which is less safer. So yeah, that's what I found for people like me who are not classically trained. Sometimes you fall in a trap where you just repeat the same formula because you don't know better. And it's nice to have people around you which can push you to go out of these boundaries.
I think we're nearing the end, but just quickly, you know, you're someone who's always buying new gear. You're always looking to progress. You're always doing new things. You're playing a jungle set here. You're DJing vinyl there. You know, you're never sitting still. But what does Kink the artist look like in the bigger picture in the future? Like, where is this going to go?
I never had a plan. But what I would love to achieve is to create original music, which I think I still haven't done. So I think that's what it's about to come. I would love to create completely original music. And wish me good luck with that.
And you mentioned just before we started talking that you're interested in teaching something maybe once you hang up your touring boots.
Yeah, I think I have a very very good experience at breaking through, making it out from a place where it's nearly impossible to become professional underground artist. And I tried pretty much every possible format of performing music live, so I think I have a good experience. And I guess at some point when I'm not going to be able, or I'm not going to want to travel that much, I would love to teach what I know. And what we are doing right now, it's helping me a lot, because, as I say, I used to be very shy, and now talking to all of you helps me out to fight my limitations. And yeah, who knows what comes in the future.
Thank you very much. So a warm round of applause.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
I don't know if there's time for a couple of questions. I don't know if I just hand out the mic to someone or just shout, maybe. Go for it, please. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, basically, before I become a DJ, then a live performer, first of all, I was just a person that goes to the clubs, a person who loves to dance. And I always loved to go closer to the DJs. I always loved to look what they do. I didn't know what they do. And many times I just wanted to, put my hand behind the DJ booth and just turn the knob and see what's going to happen. Luckily, I never did it. But I imagine a lot of people who come to see me, not a lot, but some people who come to see me, they want to, you know, see how this magic happens. And I love to give them that chance. So I guess that was my, one of the reasons I try to bring the live show as close as possible to the people is I see in a lot of people, I see part of me. So I try to give them what I didn't have when I was younger. It was always dance music. One of my earliest memories as a kid, I think I was 4 years old. I'm going to be 40 now in a couple of weeks. So when I was 4, one of my very earliest memories, it was in the summer villa of my parents, and there was a disco record playing and I was dancing. So for me it was disco, then house and techno, a bit of hip hop. So yes, it definitely influenced me, but it was more or less the same thing. And I'm not proud of it. I wish I was into rock music or something else, but no. What's
your favorite interaction?
Oh, that's easy. I was playing a festival in France, in a little city called Sète, and this guy came to me and he said, "I want to play your keyboard." And he wanted to. I have this remix I did of a project called Unit 2. It's an underground resistance production. It's called Sunshine. So the guy wanted to play on top of that track, but there is a weird chord progression. I told him, no, you cannot do this. It's too complicated. And then I played a more simple track, and I showed him, you know, this is the key you can press, and it's gonna sound okay. But the guy just grabbed the keyboard. He ended up amazing jazz piano player. So he rocked it for almost 10 minutes. I think I captured on my phone the last 3 minutes, and it became viral as well. So I think that was the best situation I had. It's really priceless. We have to trust people sometimes. There is a guy from the UK. His artist name is Tim Exile. If you haven't heard of this guy, you really have to check him out. He's the reason I believed I can play electronic music live. Before that, I thought the best platform for electronic music is playing records. But after I saw his videos, I was convinced. And it's still, let's say my level is here, and his level is like way above what I do. So he's a big inspiration. And I don't know what can I contribute if we play together, but Tim Exile is someone I would love to collaborate with. It's extremely hard, and I wonder how my colleagues do it, because I don't play that much. I used to play more a couple of years ago, and I realized it's impossible for me to have a balance between studio, personal life, and gigs. So now I play about 2 gigs per week, and 1 weekend per month I stay at home, and still for me it's difficult, because I try to make music, but at the same time I buy gear. There are some manufacturers which I work with, so they send me prototypes which I have to learn and send feedback. So it's so difficult for me to find a balance between and as you probably see, I'm not releasing a new record every month. I wish I could, but it's difficult. I'm still looking for the balance. But I think it's very important to keep it, because as much as the gigs are important and they charge you with good energy, at least for me, the studio work is the backbone of my work.
Yeah. Last one, maybe.
No, that's a good question. When I was younger and I played mostly small bars in Sofia, I always imagined I would love to play the main stage, big time, and then I did it a couple of times. And I realized that when I play a big festival, you're this little person somewhere there. Nobody really see what you're doing. You can easily play a pre-mixed CD, nobody would notice. So yes, I still love to play big gigs. it's amazing to play your work for a couple of thousand people and to see their reaction. But if you really want to have a mad energy, you need to play in a basement with 100 people. So I need both.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You're a great crowd.